Impact of oil and changing regional dynamics. Now, oil prices is talk of the world now. GCC fiscal budgets, impact of oil, drop in sovereign issuances in 2020 versus 21, how it's happening. Qatar, GCC trade, we are going to discuss it. Now, WTI US crude is quoting 60.97, that is 25% up year to date. Brent 64.57, that is 25% again. So oil resumed gains, mirroring sentiments in broader markets after a volatile few days that saw pricing swing wildly around $60 per barrel, dislodging the container vessel blocking for a few days. Now it's solved. Oil price jumped in March 2021 after OPEC and its oil producing allies said the group would keep production largely steady through April. Saudi Arabia also said it would extend its 1 million barrels per day voluntary production cuts into April. Let's also look at how the GCC budgets. Let's start with Saudi. Total revenue 849 billion riyals, total expenditure 990 billion, budget deficit forecast 141 billion riyal, that is 4.9% of GDP, public debt 937 billion, that is 32% I should say of the GDP. The Saudi Arabia economy expect to swing back now this year 3.2%. Saudi did not disclose the oil price assumption on which it bases a budget. It was likely the oil price around $48 per barrel. Now the reality is around this year around 55 average so far. It is now quoting around 60 plus. Oman budget, oil at 45 per barrel. Public spending is estimated to be 10.88 billion. Aggregate public revenue is also projected to increase 8.6 billion. Budget deficit estimated 2.2 billion, 8% of the gross domestic production. 73% of this deficit will be financed through external and domestic borrowings, or over 1.6 billion, while the rest of the deficit estimated nearly or over 600 million will be covered by drawing on reserves. UAE budget, federal budget 58 billion spending, 26 billion has been allocated for social development and welfare, 9.6 billion will go to education, almost 5 billion, 4.97 billion will be on the health sector, while necessary funding are allotted to combat COVID. 2021, the Dubai budget 57 billion and revenues 52 billion, reflecting an expansionary fiscal policy aiming at enhancing the entire competitiveness. The spending on social development expenditure including health, education, housing, women and children care representing 31% of the total expenditure. The budget allocated 9% of the expenditure to maintain the volume of investments in infrastructure in line with Dubai's aspiration to be the world's most preferred destination to live in. So Bahrain, we have public revenue 2.28 billion and public expenditure 2.33 billion, taking into consideration oil at $45. Now again, that deficit will be fixed. Now when it comes to the aim of the budget is to primarily to focus on improving the development expenditure, healthcare and education. Qatar, we have seen 194 billion. Country's total revenue is around 160 billion. They're taking oil at $40. Now we have oil at 60, definitely there will be a fiscal surplus. The 72 billion has been allocated to major projects 2021, allocation of new projects along with ongoing development projects 2022. Overall, GCC economies can witness a surplus if oil remains above $60 per barrel. Now, when it comes to sovereign bond issues 2021, we have covered separately. It's moving in the right direction. Gulf trade, Qatar trade versus now the normalization of the relationship. We have to see how it moves. Qatar economy is set to bounce back nearly 3% in 2021. Last year we had 2.5% contraction. A run-up to the 2022 FIFA World Cup should also be an anchor demand growth as the final phase of investment work is complete and the tournament itself is set to give a major lift to the export-oriented service sector. The easing of 3.5-year-old regional dispute will improve trade, tourism and logistics. The opening of the border between Qatar and Saudi Arabia is a very good news for overall trade. Now we'll see a smooth flow of goods between Qatar and the Gulf. We expect a rise in trade of food items, pharmaceutical products, construction-related products in the coming days. The normalization of the relationship Qatar and neighboring countries would help non-oil economy with the resumption of travel links, eventually lifting tourism inflows and greater interest of regional buyers in Qatar's real estate market. The normalization of the relationship should encourage GCC tourists back to Qatar when pandemic eventually ceases. Qatar Petroleum on March 3rd loaded 712 barrels of condensate destined for Emirates National Oil Company, 712,000 barrels of oil, condensate. Emirates National Oil Company, first commercial energy trade since the blockade. So a lot of development happening, and the fiscal side is improving now because the oil price, the normalization of the relationship is the hope, so that resumption of the trade, investments, including real estate and banking also will be an integral part of the overall economic momentum.